How you guys doing?
I'm doing well.
Garrett's pondering. Garrett, are you pondering what I'm pondering?
Yes, Emily, but where we're gonna get 20 gallons of fish guts at this time of day?
Bob's Fish Emporium. Duh.
Who's our new sponsor of the show? Just kidding. We don't do that anymore.
Nope, we're good without it. So, Garrett, what are you going to teach us today? I'm kidding.
Well, there was this guy. His name was Heinrich, and he was a king, and he married 6 different ladies, and they all at the same time, and they all got along relatively well. And that was the establishment of the Mormon Church.
Everything worked out in the end.
Yeah,
everything went better than expected. We do have a special guest. It's my kitty Tetra. So she wants to cuddle while we're doing this. She's our special guest. Tetra, do you want to say hi? No, she just wants to lay on my lap.
Your cats don't like to talk unless it's at the most inopportune time, namely when I'm trying to sleep on your couch.
Wake up, Garrett. Feed us. They are very loud when they're hungry anyway. You guys ready to get started?
Yeah.
We're going
Let's
to
get tutored.
Let's talk popes. Let's get
Oops.
serious. Except it's not really serious because there was some crazy hijinks.
Does the Pope shit in the woods?
He does not shit in the woods.
Damn it.
Hold on,
What
let me
about in
count.
his hat?
His Pope hat does shit in the woods.
What did the Pope Mobile look like back in
3, 4, 5, 6. Hold on.
16th century?
Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
Pope man, Cardinal boy,
9,
and
10,
Pope man.
11, 12, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. There were about 20 popes
Jesus.
in the whole time the Tudors reigned. And
I thought you were going to say just Henry's, and I was going to be really aghast by that.
I mean, there was some... Remember that people died when they were like 32 back then.
Yeah.
And when you get elected as the Pope when you're in your late 60s in the 1500s. Like...
Just a whole series of single-term popes. Just last
No.
this one lasts a month.
That's why they need
You
sexy
joke,
young
but there was
popes
literally
like,
a Pope who lasted a month.
They need sexy young popes like what? Who is it? Jude Law?
Jude Law,
Or
the
is it
young
Ewan McGregor?
Pope.
They're both the same guy to me.
Also, yes.
How are they the same guy?
To me, they are. I get them confused all the time.
Obi-Wan Kenobi?
We played that movie game where it's like, okay, name all the movies that this actor has been in, and my friend picked Jude Law, and we got like 10 movies deep till we realized it was all Ewan McGregor movies we were naming.
Seriously?
Yeah, I don't know, and he was the one that picked the categories, so he fucked up.
Well, I want to play that game because that's weird. Okay, well, we're not going to talk about Jude Law Pope. We're going to talk about old crotchety popes.
Also, was that show any good? Did you watch it?
You dang kids, get out of my church.
No, I wasn't really interested in the young Pope.
Seemed like you would be.
Just because I'm Catholic doesn't mean I'm
It just seemed like something you'd be interested in.
we didn't have HBO, honestly. That's why I didn't.
Oh, that's not something I'm interested in. Okay, I'm too cheap for HBO.
If I don't have it, I don't see it.
I'm really excited to show you guys one of these pictures I got. Okay. So the Pope was Popey, and he reigned, and he pissed off Henry, and Henry pissed off him, and then everybody died. The end. What are you doing on your phone?
Don't point it out. I'm paying attention.
Okay, don't. Okay.
I'm trying to download podcasts so I have something to listen to on the way home.
Oh, okay. I got a good one.
Okay.
Tudor, I hardly know her. You should. It's a really good one. I really like it. It's really funny. Very informative. Okay, are you ready to start at the beginning?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so first I want to just give a little bit of background on what the Pope's role actually... Sorry, I have a picture up on my phone. I have to close it because it makes me giggle. So I want to give you a little bit of background on what the Pope's role actually was in those days, because it wasn't like it is today where the Pope is just like sending out inspiring tweets. I feel like the Pope is like the anti-Trump. Like Trump goes on Twitter and he just spews mayhem, and then the Pope's on Twitter and he's all like, love one another, let's be friends.
The Pope did take quite a turn. He's just like, hey, all the stuff that we said ain't cool. Hey, it's cool now.
The Pope is the Fonz.
I would love Harry Winkler to be the
Oh
Pope.
my God, yes.
Let's do that in our casting.
Although that sounds like it's like the plot of a new Adam Sandler movie.
Okay, so there was definitely corruption in the papal time in the papacy.
What?
I mean, they're human, and some of them sucked, and it was really just a power play for a bunch of popes. So politics were definitely involved in their rule. They got very involved in what was going on with other countries. They did their crusade thing, but then they also did their war thing. So, as an example of some of the craziness that happened right before the Tudor times, so the seven. Okay, so in the 1400s, there were 7 consecutive popes who lived in Avignon in France under the control of the French king. So essentially, the French king was able to be like, I don't like Spain right now. Could you please excommunicate them? And then for 40 years, there were 2 popes who had 2 different courts and 2 colleges of cardinals at the same time. And they both excommunicated each other. And it was called...
I excommunicate you. No, I had excommunication shield. I excommunicate you.
The Hatfield McCoys.
Yes.
There's just like a line. There's like
hillbilly Hatfields and McCoys. That was called the Great Schism. So because of that, it kind of dropped the papacy's political power. And so the popes after that had to really rebuild the economic and political power of them. And in fact, they became major players in Italian politics, and they increased papal states, which were essentially areas that were under direct papal control. So like if you were a papal state, you didn't answer to a king or a duke, you answered to the Pope. He controlled your kingdom and everything. So that's a background on what the religion of that time looked like. So I figured we'd just go through all the popes and kind of the craziness that happened throughout all the Tudors, because there's a lot of excommunication. So it started with Pope Innocent IV. He became Pope the year before Henry Tudor came to the throne.
What's his name?
Innocent. Oh, it wasn't Innocent IV. I totally misread that. Innocent VIII.
His name was Innocent.
Well, that's their papal name.
Okay.
Okay, let's see how innocent this guy really was.
He was not, and actually the book I was reading said it was like in direct opposition to his nature. His name was Innocent. So he had numerous illegitimate children. But he was the one who granted the papal dispensation for Henry VII and Elizabeth of Tudor.
Was it okay for popes to fuck back then?
No.
Nope.
Okay.
That's why they were illegitimate children. So he was the one who granted the dispensation to allow the marriage of Henry VII and Elizabeth of York. So he reigned from 1484 to 1492. Not a very long reign, but it was one of the longest of this time. It's crazy.
How long did John Paul II reign for?
Hey Siri. Hey Siri. My Siri's not working. I don't know.
I'll
The
look it up
70s?
while you continue.
Just saw that picture again. So then there's a pope everybody knows of. His name is Rodrigo de Borgia, and he was Alexander VI, and he was that Borgia pope, the one
Borgias.
who had Cesare and
Jeremy
Lucrezia. Jeremy Irons.
Yeah.
Borgia.
So he reigned from 1492 to 1503. He had one mistress named Julia Farnese, who gave him 4 illegitimate children, and he kind of placed them well off.
Sorry, I got an update. With 25 years and 5 months as Pope, John Paul II becomes the 3rd longest-serving pontiff in history, behind St. Peter's 32 years and Pope Pius IX's 31 years and 7 months.
Oh, interesting.
31 years as a pope. That sounds crazy to think
Yeah,
about.
that's an entire generation.
Mm-hmm.
So back to the Borgia Pope. He was super awful. he kind of placed his 4 illegitimate children. He actually had a lot, like 8 or 9 illegitimate children. And he placed the 4 with Giuliano Farnese in places of power. He named one of them when he was 18, like a cardinal. Can you imagine being 18 years old and trying to be in charge of somebody's spiritual health? I'm almost 30 and I can barely control my own.
I'm pretty sure if your dad is doing that type of shit for you, it's just like, hey, I don't expect you to really do anything.
He didn't really do anything besides go to war. He actually allied with France to conquer. He was like, hey, France, you go ahead and conquer Naples. I'll help you. So he was not cool to just sit back and let shit happen. And he was pretty damn corrupt. But he died, as they did back then. He's still alive and kicking.
As most people from the day are, dead.
So then Julius II reigned from 1503 to 1513. Hold on.
10 years.
Mm-hmm. Sorry. So he went to war with... he also went to war against France, and he invited England, and Henry VIII was all like, well, fuck yeah, I hate France, and now I feel good about this because it's religious. So they did that in 1511. This is the same Pope, Julius II, who allowed the dispensation for Henry VIII to marry his brother's widow, Catherine.
Okay.
That's relevant. And then after him came Leo X, and he appointed, there's a priest named Lorenzo Campeggio, and he made him a cardinal. And Campeggio is later important when Henry VIII wants his divorce. And it was during Leo's reign. I don't really know if you're supposed to call it a reign. Pontification.
No,
I don't think that's what it is.
No, it isn't.
At all.
Pontificating means to, think or mull over.
Pontificating?
Yeah.
Isn't that a religious term for making...
Well,
why are we so dumb? I can't wait to show you guys this picture. Is a form of government. It's okay, I guess it is. Pontificating is a form of government in the Vatican. So he was the one who went to England to help when Henry... Wait, I might have already said that. Sorry. It's Sunday. I'm dead. So Martin Luther revolted during this time, during Leo X's time.
Pontificate means to express one's opinions in a way considered annoyingly pompous and dogmatic. So, like me.
Okay.
Also, yeah, you were also right.
Okay. So it was during this time that Martin Luther rose, and Henry was like, he's such a dick, and I'm going to write about it and publish it. And so Henry VIII wrote a denunciation of Luther, and the Pope was like, you are so fucking cool. I'm going to name you the Fide Defensor, which is Defender of the Faith. So Henry actually adopted that as part of his formal title. So it was part of his Daenerys Targaryen naming.
Mother of Dragons,
yeah.
Defender of the Faith.
So, so he was Henry, King of England, Ireland, and Scotland, Defender of the Faith. And he continued to use that so much that
Gigolo.
Queen Elizabeth actually adopted that as part of her title. It was just one of these things. They're like, we were named it. You can't take that away. And
but it's
then,
still Cromwell that had the biggest title.
Yes. And then after Leo died, a guy named Adrian the Sixth. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. He didn't reign very long, just a little, like a year and a half. And then Clement the Seventh. So he's the one that is really involved in Henry and his great matter. So Clement the Seventh became the Pope right when Henry was like, I think I need to figure out this marriage situation. And he was not, it was 1523, and Clement was not very politically astute. He was incredibly undecisive, and he couldn't just be like, whatever happens, happens. Like, I'll deal with the fallout, but I got to make decisions. He was terrible at it. So there was some wars going on, and in that time, Spain had an army going to Rome, and the Duke who was leading them died on a ladder while trying to get over the walls or something. And the soldiers didn't have anybody to guide them, so they're just like, fuck it, let's just pillage. So they pillaged Rome. It's called the Sack of Rome, and they kept the Pope as a prisoner. So the
Pope nap.
he was Pope napped.
Oh my God.
So he was Pope napped. So the emperor wasn't like the emperor of Spain, Charles, wasn't like, let's go to Rome and kidnap the Pope, but he was like, oh, this is certainly working out for me.
It's like, look, I'm not saying if we go to Rome, we kidnap the Pope, but if he's there
and able, do it.
So
I mean, I'll take a Pope.
So it was really shitty for Henry because the Emperor of Spain was Catherine of Aragon's nephew. And yes, he was taking Catherine of Aragon's side, but it was so much more politically involved than that. Like, it wasn't really I am morally outraged by this. It was, I fucking hate England, plus I'm morally outraged. So, it worked very poorly for Henry, for the Pope to be under Spain's rule, under their thumb, and it was great for Catherine. So that happened in May 1527, but 6 months later, the Pope put on a costume and snuck out, and so he escaped.
The Pope is just wearing a hoodie, sunglasses.
He's dressed up like Damien from Mean Girls, where he's got a hoodie tied up and sunglasses on. He's like, he doesn't even go here.
I like to imagine he puts the hoodie up, but it's just over his Pope hat. So he's got this giant
Garrett.
pointy hood.
Okay, so
He was wearing a disguise. He was escaping.
Yes, I know. I was reading notes that I already said.
Or he just takes the Pope hat off. They're like, who is that guy? He's not our prisoner. Let him out of here. What are you guys doing?
That can't be the Pope. He doesn't have a hat on.
He's
I
not
can imagine-
shitting in the woods.
I like to imagine they keep him in jail and they give him like rags to wear, but also a ratty Pope hat.
You get a less nicer Pope hat.
This is made of lesser quality wool. You're not even going to be warm.
This is made of hair shirt.
So
Hair hat.
throughout the whole divorce, Henry was saying, yo, Julius II was wrong to give me the dispensation. He doesn't have the right to say that my marriage to Catherine is valid. I know this because I read the Bible, and he can't say that he knows more than the Bible.
Nobody said, hey, Henry, you were cool with it at the time.
Would you want to say that to Henry VIII?
I mean,
No.
no.
And anybody who knew, so he kept it super secret for a long time, to the point where Catherine didn't know yet. So there was like a good period of time where Catherine had no clue Henry was seeking a divorce.
Oh, I thought they were already divorced and she just didn't know it.
No. So he kept this.
Like, what are you still doing in my bed?
Take
Get
your
the
towels
fucking
and
tower.
go home. Yeah.
So Catherine didn't know. It was a really secret matter. And Henry was like, Clement, you have to take this back. You have to say that this dispensation is not valid. Well, Clement was in an awkward situation because he was still in danger of Spain going like, hey, go back to jail. Do not pass go. But also,
I like to imagine just like, hey, don't okay this or else you're going back to jail. And Henry's like, okay this or I'll fucking kill you.
close. England was their best friend. Like, they had this super close alliance, and it was really important for Clement to keep that because he was not doing so well with England or with France and Spain.
I feel like it's that meme of the two buttons on a panel and like it's just some superheroes trying to like make a decision which one to push. You ever seen that one?
No.
It's like push this button or this button. He's sweating bullets. He can't decide.
That's how Clement was. So he was currently facing issues with Spain, France, Italy, the Ottoman Empire, and then Martin Luther was causing shit. So he needed his Catholic buddy Henry to stay happy. But if he said that Julius II's dispensation was not valid, he was undermining the entirety of the dispensation process. The whole point of a dispensation is a formal religious okay from God, essentially, because they're God's representative on earth, saying this is cool. You're good to do what you're doing. It's formal permission. And if he said Julius's dispensation was not valid, he was then saying no dispensation is valid.
Look, guys, when Julius handed out that dispensation, God was drunk. He had a little bit too much to drink. he's realizing it probably wasn't okay. Just cut the big guy some slack, all right?
God's got to stop doing drunken eBay nights.
What would he buy?
Stupid shit. Like I bet you how that's how the platypus came. It was like a build your own toy set.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Look what I got for you, my son. It's
It's a duck beaver.
cool, right?
Yeah, Dad.
Dad,
Thanks.
I really gotta go save the world.
Okay. One
Dad,
more thing, son.
I'm going to Mom's.
Oh my God, we're going to hell.
What am I gonna do with 10,000 fidget spinners? I know we said he got drunk, but I'm making him sound more like a stoner.
On each arm of the fidget spinner, there's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost.
Oh
He's like,
my God! Has the Catholic Church co-opted that yet?
he's like, let's give this to these guys downstairs.
Okay, I have to Google this, see if there's a Catholic fidget spinner. Oh my God! What if it's just Jesus on the crucifix? I gotta look.
Oh.
Holy shit.
Okay, so I found Catholic fidget spinner. I did a Google image search. It says 3 persons, Father, Son, Holy Spirit on each, of the 3 prongs of the fidget spinner. Then spinning, it says 1 God because it's all spinning together. And then let's see, the original fidget spinner. It's a picture of a rosary. And here's one that says Catholic fidget spinner, 1586, and it's a guy on a wheel.
Aww.
One of those, yeah, torture rack.
That's funny.
What is it called?
What?
The wheel. Wheel of morality.
Turn.
Tell us a lesson that we should learn. Continue with the lesson, Emily.
Okay, so the lesson you're learning today is, so then because Clement was like, I can't really make a decision, this is a big deal, he listened to Wolsey. So Wolsey was in England. He goes, hey, I have an idea. Let's have a Legantine court. What that is representatives of the Pope who have papal authority to make papal decisions would go to England and make a choice. So the Pope was like, sure, Wolsey, you be one of them. And then my buddy Campeggio, you be one of them. Campeggio and Wolsey were buddies. So it was highly expected by everybody that they would rule in
favor of Henry.
However,
uh-oh.
And the Clement was willing to kind of do anything to please Henry, but he couldn't make a decision. So like it actually came about really early. As early as 1527, Henry was like being a windbag and saying, I could just fucking ignore the Pope, Mom, and do what I want. So Wolsey was freaked out and he wrote to Clement in like an 8-page letter. He's like, we got to do something. So that's when the Legantine Court came up. And Campeggio was sent to England and he had a document. And what the document said was that they were ruling in Henry's favor. The document was done before anything in the court was brought up. However, so like Henry and Wolsey were like, yeah, we got this locked down. However, the Pope had also gone to Campeggio and said to him, do everything you can to compromise and do not make a decision. So some of the compromises, I've told this before, but I still want to talk about them. The options were Catherine could go to a nunnery, to which the sassy lady said, okay, but only when Henry goes to a monastery.
Nice.
Yeah.
Burn.
The Pope was like, or Campeggio on behalf of the Pope said, you have a son, Henry Fitzroy, and if this is all about a son, he could marry your daughter, Mary, and the problem's solved.
Henry Fitzroy,
Fitzroy, bastard son of Henry VIII, could marry Henry VIII's legitimate daughter. He also said, hey, it's totally cool if you make Anne your mistress, and then any children you have will legitimize so that they can inherit. Like, that's the problem solved. And then this one I'm a little confused of, because one book, a lot of the information I'm getting this from is the
So
book,
what was the problem with that idea?
Anne Boleyn was not going to be okay with being a mistress, and Henry was appalled at the idea of taking a woman he loves as just a mistress. It was not to him, it was not about sex. He wanted to be superior. He wanted the world to acknowledge that the Pope was wrong and he was right, and Anne was worthy of being a queen.
Okay.
So a lot of the information I'm getting this from is a book I've mentioned before. It's called The Tudors, The Complete Story of England's Most Notorious Dynasty. It's by J.G. Meyer. And I've read a couple different things about this last point. So it was suggested that Henry just take Anne as a second wife. Now, this book and a couple other sources have said that Campeggio recommended that. He was the one who was like, just take a second wife, it'll be fine. Other resources are saying that Henry VIII sent a man named Knight to the Pope with 2 papal bulls that he drafted up that he wanted the Pope to say yes. The first was giving Henry permission to sleep with Anne, even though he slept with her sister. I'll talk about the irony there in a second. The second one was that if the Pope didn't grant Henry his divorce, he could take Anne on as a mistress. So now it's saying that it's proposed that Henry came up with the idea of the bigamy. But this book says that Campeggio and the Pope were the ones who said it was cool. So not sure which is the more accurate, but bigamy was on the table. So
what do most people believe is the true answer?
It depends on your perspective. So, and I dither about this because like it's really kind of frustrating for me sometimes I am totally uninvolved in this, but at the same time I'm totally obsessed with it. Catherine was given a lot of options, and some people are like, well, every option Catherine was given would have delegitimized her daughter, and it was everything she was doing was for her daughter. Well, that's not true. She was told, if you go to a nunnery, then because Mary was conceived in good faith, meaning you both believed your marriage was legitimate, you hadn't tried to dupe one another, she would still inherit the throne. So it's not just because of her daughter. So this whole annulment thing, not the first time it happened. Eleanor of Aquitaine, she was divorced, but it's not a divorce, it's an annulment from her French husband because of a child issue. And then she went to England and married an English guy and had like 5,000 babies by him. So let's not go ahead and blame the women, guys. So it's not crazy for Henry to have said, I don't want to be married to Catherine anymore. Right? But the political climate at the time, Martin Luther's uprising, all of that, it kind of made it the perfect storm. So, there's just not really a right answer. The correct thing that should have been done is the Pope should have made an answer and just risked pissing someone off. And he dithered until 1534. He didn't make a decision for it. He started his reign in 1523, and in 1534 is when he made his decision.
This is a little bit off topic, but and I may have asked this a long time ago.
No, that's fine.
Were peasantry or people other than like the elite top tier dudes allowed to get annulments? Or
no, okay, so
or
no, and
what I think you're gonna say is the peasantry kind of didn't really have a choice.
So here's the thing: the peasantry actually got to marry for love.
Okay.
So the lower classes, it was not a weird thing for them to marry for love. They didn't need to combine land because they didn't actually own land.
Okay.
So the issue would have been less commonplace then, but at the same time, annulments wouldn't have been as readily accessible. You can't just go to your priest and say, can you annul my marriage? You have to. Today, so Jeff and I got married in a Catholic ceremony. If we wanted an annulment,
Please
I'd have to go to a bishop.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So it's not hugely accessible. And even now, it takes so long to get an annulment to go through. It could be like 7 or 8 years before, like if we started it, not that we're going to, but just so you guys are aware. So it was less commonplace for the peasantry because they were able to marry for love more so than the middle class. And then even like the dukes and the barons and all of them, it wasn't as accessible for them, and they would just separate from their wives. Like they would just Norfolk and his wife hated each other, so they lived apart like almost all the time. So yes, they could get annulments, but it wasn't super accessible. It wasn't like a royalty only thing.
Gotcha.
So yeah, your question about what should have been done, it's still, people still debate. There's just too many options. If it had really been, okay, so here's the thing. Anne Boleyn wasn't even brought, like Henry tried to hide the fact that Anne was involved with him because he didn't want people thinking he's doing it just to sleep with Anne. He really wanted to, he desperately wanted to marry her again and have more sons. But it just wasn't doable. So finally, so I told you Henry requested a dispensation to marry Anne.
Mm-hmm.
His reasoning, okay, the dispensation that was granted for him to marry Catherine was Catherine was technically his sister because she had been married to his brother.
Mm-hmm.
Henry was requesting a dispensation to marry Anne even though he slept with his sister. So it's the exact same situation. The exact same. So he's saying, you can't grant a dispensation for me to marry Catherine, but also please grant a dispensation so I can sleep with Anne. And the Pope was like, sure you can. Like, go ahead. I can do that. But also, I'm still not letting you get divorced yet. I still haven't made up my mind. So then in 1534, Clement finally made a decision, and he just said no. And Henry was like, fuck you. I do what I want. And then Clement probably just died because he did die that year, and he was just like, I'm fucking done, and croaked. You look like you wanted to say something.
No.
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 So after Clement, Pope Paul III inherited all of his problems, and he reigned from 1534 to 1549. So he actually had a pretty, 15 years worth of shit with England. So in 1538, he excommunicated Henry, and Henry was closing monasteries at that point, and that meant that the Pope was getting less money, so he was getting weaker politically. And now I'm just picturing a video game where the minions of the bad guy are the monasteries, and you have to beat those before you can get to the big bad guy, the Pope. I really want that to be a game now.
Super Henry VIII.
Super Henry Brothers.
I would play that.
So player 1 is Henry. Player
one's
2
Charles
is
Brandon.
Arthur, and you
I would
just
play
die
that.
the second you start up as Arthur.
I would love that. It's like a mix between Oregon Trail and Mario.
Every time he goes to a different castle, there's a different wife.
Oh my god.
Guys.
And it's just Cromwell going, your wife is another castle.
Guys, I love this.
Instead of fireballs, you throw severed heads.
I really wish this was a game. Why are we not skilled enough to create games?
I wish I was.
So he's playing his video game. So then Julius III was Pope for 5 years between 1550 and 1555, and Henry died. And then Pope Paul IV came in the picture, and he said every Protestant ruler, because now there were more, are heretics, and your realms are illegitimate.
Now that Henry is dead.
Well, yes, but also, yeah.
So they were able. I'm sure that's a move they've been wanting to make, and now that Henry's dead, finally.
They
yes.
weren't waiting for Henry to die. It was just Pope Paul III before he'd already excommunicated Henry, and now there were even more Protestant Protestant leaders. So now he's saying you're all heretics. And this was when Elizabeth was the heir to the throne and Mary was on the throne. So the Pope was like, Mary and Philip, they're Catholic, they're awesome, they're ruling, I love them. And he was also like, and by the way, everybody who got property when the monasteries were abolished, we want that back. So that's tons of money they were losing, and he lost a lot of popularity because of that. And then when Elizabeth I came to the throne, he was like, nah, don't like, you suck. So then there was Pius IV, and he reigned for 6 years, and then nothing really happened during that. And then Pius V, this is the picture I keep laughing about. So he came to power in 1566, and he was in power for, sorry. He was in power.
This up.
He was in power for, no, don't look it up. I got a picture for you.
Okay.
In 1572. So not very long, he excommunicated Elizabeth I. He supported Mary, Queen of Scots' claim to the throne. And then he was like, it's totally cool if you guys try and take over England. This is his quote, from a most sordid slavery to a woman's veracity. And then he signed a papal bull saying Elizabeth's subjects no longer owed her their allegiance. And anybody who denied to be loyal to her, or to anybody who refused to deny her allegiance, was excommunicated. So double negative. Anybody who was loyal to Elizabeth was excommunicated. This is the picture. Like, he's just like leering.
That is gorgeous. Mm.
I love it. It's just
Oh yeah, that's totally going on Facebook. It looks like Sassy Santa. Ho ho ho.
It looks like he's hiding a cat underneath his robe. A big fluffy white cat.
so specific.
Yeah, because his beard doesn't look right.
One of these popes during this reign, I think it was one of the Piuses, or the Pauls. He started the trend for popes to have beards. So that's my delightful picture that I love so much. And I want to frame that and put it in my house. Just in our family room, above our bed.
Yeah, right above your bed, looking down at you and Jeff.
Okay, so a couple other things that happened before the Tudor reign ended. Gregory the 13th, he was actually the one who started the Gregorian calendar. So that's just a fun fact.
He has to start the Gregorian chant.
Yes.
Ooh.
Oh, no, I don't know.
Oh.
And what happened when they changed? So the issue was the Julian calendar.
What's the difference between the calendars?
11 days. So the difference is that the Julian calendar said that the year was 365 days and 6 hours. The Gregorian calendar actually accounted for the exact timing. So it's actually 365 days, 5 hours and 49 minutes. So
Isn't that song from Rent?
No, that's 525,600 minutes.
Thank you.
Why is that the second time that song has come up in 2 days with me?
You mentioned it last night.
Okay.
And
That's
I was
just on your
surprised
mind.
that you know that. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people know it. I've just never seen Rent.
Neither have I. So he made it so over 13th centuries, they had lost 11, like everything was off by 11 days. So he had to flip it so that it went, the
Put his
dates,
thing down, he flipped it. And he
flip it and reverse it. It's your, I don't,
Different yet.
yeah. So he flipped it and reversed it. And the calendar went from Thursday, October 4th, 1582 to Friday, October 15th, 1582. Now, because half of the world hated the Catholics, half of the world was like, fuck you and your calendar. So the Protestant countries for like a century were 11 days off. So that's super confusing. And then the same with like I think like the Orthodox countries, they also refused to accept it. So that was just a fun fact. But during his reign in 1580, Pius V was like, you don't have to listen to Elizabeth. She's excommunicated. Gregory the 13th was like, you should totally obey your queen. She's fine. And then Sixtus the Sixth, say that 5 times fast.
Sixtus the Sixth?
Sixtus the Sixth.
Sextus?
Sixtus.
Biggest dickus?
Sixtus. Sixtus the Sixth.
Sixtus the Sixth.
Sounds like a small child like trying to say 66.
Sixtus the Sixth.
Execute order.
Maybe there was a miscommunication. He was Pope Sextus.
Oh,
The
that's
sexy Pope.
Sexiest.
no, that's the young Pope's
That's Jude
name,
Law.
Pope Sextus. Oh, gross! That just sounds like you telling him to sext everyone.
I'm gonna change my hat to a big old cock and balls.
So, the sixth, he reigned from 1585 to 1590, and he re-excommunicated Elizabeth. And then he was also like, hey, Armada, if you land in England, I'll give you a shit ton of money for having done so. It wasn't really a reward. It was, I will fund your journey so long as it is successful. Obviously, it was not. And so that worked out. But so Elizabeth went from being excommunicated to unexcommunicated to re-excommunicated.
At that point, I just stopped paying attention to that. Like, yeah, whatever.
She did not care.
Yeah.
However, during the Pius V reign, when she was first excommunicated and the Pope was like, hey, y'all Catholics don't actually have to listen to her, she had previously been like, I'm fine with the Catholics, do what you want. And then they posed a danger to her. So that's when she started going after them. So, and then there were 3 popes, each of which lasted less than a year each. And then the final pope for the Tudor reign was Clement VIII, and he was pope from 1592 to 1605, and he liked coffee. I'm not kidding. There's a section on his Wikipedia page about this, and I'm going to read it. It's funny. You're going to appreciate it. Coffee aficionados often claim that the spread of its popularity among Catholics is due to Pope Clement VIII's influence. He was pressed by his advisors to denounce coffee. The advisors believed coffee was the, quote, bitter invention of Satan because of its popularity among Muslims. However, upon tasting coffee, Pope Clement VIII declared that, quote, this Satan's drink is so delicious that it would be a pity to let the infidels have exclusive use of it. Clement allegedly blessed the bean because it appeared better for the people than alcoholic beverages.
Weird.
Coffee's best blessed by the Pope.
That's our weird Tudor fact.
That is a crazy Tudor fact.
That's super good.
Yep.
So he acknowledges, like, yeah, this is a Satan drink, but it's fucking good.
This is delicious.
Oh man, sin never tastes so good.
That was the catchphrase of that was a Folger's tagline for the longest time. Sin never tasted so good. Can we put the picture of Pope Pius on a coffee cup?
I'm Pope Clement VIII.
I'm actually getting that picture of the Pope on a coffee mug and writing "Sin never tasted so good." I wonder if anybody would buy if I made that.
You said it was Pope Pius? Was
that the silly picture is Pope Pius, but it's Pope Clement VIII
so
who liked coffee.
I'm gonna say you should get that Pope picture on like a apparel, like a shirt, maybe underwear.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
I like it.
Like,
no,
hey,
I want like a
drop your
trucker
pants, baby, and it's just that picture.
I want a trucker
Right
hat
in
with
your
that picture on it.
Oh my god.
That'd be glorious. So that was the last.
Or a pillow.
I want to sleep on that. And second Tudor, we can do a second podcast pillow. So I just find it. So I didn't know that the last pope during the Tudor reign was also a Clement. And I don't know if it's like poetic or anything, but I find it interesting that the pope who was causing all of the religious divide issues with Henry, that was like the reason he did it, is also named Clement. And then Elizabeth's final pope was Clement.
Now the thing with popes is that whatever name their pope name is, that's not their actual name.
Yeah, like Rodrigo Borgia was known as Alexander VI.
Okay.
So
what were their names assigned for them, or did they choose them? Like
they choose them.
Okay.
Like, I never liked the name Rodrigo, mother. I hated the uncle you named me after. I'm going to be Alex. Can you please call me Xander?
That sounds like a young pope.
I'm Xander the First.
I'm Pope Innocent.
I'm just visualizing Pope Xander as like one of those like weird, like the stereotypical I'm the cool 90s kid with the hat backwards and wearing sunglasses.
He wears his Pope hat backwards.
He's Kid Vid from Burger King, except he's got the Pope hat on.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to look up a little bit more about the Great Schism that caused two different... Jesus.
No, it wasn't Jesus.
That caused two different Jesus. I'm trying to... Well, maybe I'm not because the page won't load. Okay. The Great Schism of 1054 was the break of communion between what are now Eastern Orthodox and Roman Catholic churches. The Greek churches in southern Italy were forced either to close... Oh my gosh, I really just want like a 2-sentence... Well, never mind. I was going to try and give a little bit of information on the Great Schism, but essentially there were two popes at the same time.
You tried.
But
that would be interesting to learn about, though. Like if you could find more about that, and if it's
there are certain things that happened during the Tudor reign that didn't directly affect the Tudors, but indirectly did.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really want to talk about the Ottoman Empire during that time because there was some hella interesting
They
stuff.
sold a lot of good furniture.
They did. Really great rugs. So I really want to talk about the Ottoman Empire a little bit.
Okay.
Oh my God. Western Schism, also called Great Schism or Great Western Schism, is in the history of the Roman Catholic Church, the period from 1378 to 1417, when there were 2 and later 3 rival popes. Okay,
so
but you were
there's a
talking.
third one. Is like I might want to get in on this action.
You were talking about how they were like, I'm gonna excommunicate you. Well, I'm gonna. So that actually did happen. The Pope would excommunicate some political leaders, like the kings, like King Henry of Navarre. Before he was king, he excommunicated him, and the king was just like, "Well, I excommunicate you. 2 can play this game." Yeah, so that's that. Technically now there are 2 popes.
Are there?
Well, because Benedict didn't die, he resigned.
Well, he was a shitbag, wasn't he?
Benedict?
Wasn't
the one who was pope through 5 years ago?
Yeah, wasn't he kind of a shitbag?
He didn't really do anything. No, I think his reasoning, it wasn't like he was involved in political turmoil or anything. He was just like, I really don't want this job.
I thought it had to do
remote.
with all the abuse in the church. I feel like that's what was going on during his time, or was that at the tail end of John Paul's?
I think that was the tail end. Here. From 2005 until 2013.
No more Tudor talk. We're talking current events ish.
He reigned from 2005 until 2013.
Okay, so.
And his predecessor was John Paul II.
Yeah.
And then our current pope. I don't think he was involved in that. Not
directly involved, but I want to believe that he was around during when a lot of that stuff was surfacing.
I mean, they all were, but I genuinely believe.
I mean, yeah, they all were.
It was. I'm trying to find out.
That's how I always saw it going down.
Hold
also,
on.
Fun fact: I have 2 cousins whose names are John Paul and Roman Alexander.
It was John Paul II.
Okay.
I have a dad named Mark, a brother Matthew. No Lukes or Johns. Well, I do have an Uncle John in my family, but not my immediate one. Anyway.
And there you have it.
That's the popes.
That was a good one.
I liked it. More so because I got that creepy picture.
Creepy or incredibly sexy?
Also, yes.
Was that the Space Pope?
Space Pope coast to coast. Yeah. Emily or Jeff, whichever one of you does it on social media, post
Me.
that picture. Listeners, hashtag sexy, hashtag creepy pope. Sexy pope, creepy pope, hashtag it. Tell us what you think.
4K Los Dos.
God, his nose is huge.
I don't know if that's supposed to be the creepy or the sexy part.
I don't know where his beard ends and where his robes begin.
That's the
It
fun.
sounds like we're saying sexy things about him. Like we're just like, ooh, I don't know where his beard begins and his robe ends.
He's got some pretty cut cheekbones, though. Like Benedict Cumberbatch would be jealous of those.
Let me see. Do they match mine?
Yeah. If you had a bigger nose, you could be Pope Pius. Did you know your nose never stops growing?
What?
Yeah. Have you ever noticed how like older
your
people
ears.
have really
I think
big
it's because you're
noses?
lying.
I'm not.
No, it's actually true. It's nose and ears never stop growing.
Was it you who told me? It might have been Jeff.
I mean, it's kind of a fact I always heard a lot when like
Is it
in,
'cause
like,
it's
school and
cartilage?
everything.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because
'Cause
like
it's an
if you ever
actual
look at
bone,
older
things like
people,
that.
they'll have giant honkers.
Well, that's because they sag and they get real low.
'Cause everything else
Do your-
noses.
Do your nose hang low? Do it wobble to the flow? Jeez, he just is like that's a penetrating gaze.
He looks like a scheming cat.
He looks like
He's a big old cat.
He looks like he knows what you were doing last night.
But he's not going to tell anybody.
But he's not- he's gonna be
gonna know
like-
he's going to lord it over you.
No, he kind of looks like he knows what you were doing last night, and he's half jealous, half gonna lord it over you.
Yeah. It's like, so you were out with Cindy last night, weren't you?
Oh God. Exactly. Okay. So,
Hashtag sexy, hashtag creepy, hashtag porque no los dos.
I'm going with a little bit of both.
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
So, guys, find us on Twitter at Tudor Know Her.
That's what we need to do, Emily. We start our own social media site called Tudor.
What do we do on this social media
Just
site?
talk tutors.
Oh, that's what we do on Twitter.
Yeah.
Find us on Twitter at Tudor Know Her. I get really awesome people talking to me. Awesome name suggestions. I'm a huge fan of naming a baby Catherine Ann Jane and Catherine Simpson.
Just
I
one
don't-
baby?
One name. One baby named Catherine Ann
One
Jane
vision.
and Catherine Simpson. I'm a huge fan of that one. Also, I kind of wish Henry had married one more time because the other woman he wanted to marry was also named Catherine. I'm not kidding. So,
Had a type.
Twitter, find us, chat with us. I'm
Was
on it and
Catherine
checking
Ann,
it.
Jane, and
Catherine Ann Jane and Catherine.
it sounds like we're doing a rudimentary like Konami code or something.
And then find us
Taking
on
unlimited wives.
Catherine and Jane and Catherine up, down, left, start.
BA start.
It's Henry's cheat code for a son.
No, it's unlimited wives because it's the lives code. It makes a
So
joke.
find us on
Facebook.
Facebook at just Tudor. I hardly know her. I share facts about what's been going on in Tudor stuff lately. I share stuff from other pages.
Do we do Instagram?
No,
nothing really to
I don't really have
Instagram.
enough to Instagram. I feel
Did you not see that picture of the Pope?
I feel weird posting pictures that I haven't taken on Instagram.
That's true.
So no Instagram yet. So I think we're good.
All right.
So until next time.
Oh, iTunes, rate, review,
Yes.
subscribe, tell your friends,
Absolutely.
and also definitely give us a review. Tell us what you like, what we're doing, what you think we could improve on.
Chances are we'll ignore you if you tell us you don't like something.
I'll take criticism to heart.
I'll take it. I
I feel
think the only time we actually really listened to it was when we decided to tone down our bad cussing.
I was gonna say like I catch myself a little bit more.
Mother forker.
Until next time.
Divorce,
Beheaded, died. Divorce, beheaded, survived.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.